Good morning. Welcome, everybody. Bonjour. Tanse, hello. My English name is Geraldine Shingoose, and my spirit names are Sky Woman, Northern Lights Woman, and I come from the Bear Clan. And my warrior spirit is Grandmother Turtle. I was contacted to come and present this morning, and it was kind of a last minute, so bear with me. But in my presentation today, I want to present on, it's June, eh? So June is Indigenous History Month, and we want to honor our Indigenous peoples of Canada, our First Nations, Métis and Inuit. And when I introduce myself, I also want to honor my family, my late father, Henry Shingoose, and my late mother, Eva Shingoose. Because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. So, but in our Indigenous ways of knowing our knowledge, we carry stories, we carry our culture, and we carry that good way of life, eh? It's, we've always walked that good life, as Indigenous people on these lands and with the waters. I want to acknowledge the northern communities that are up north. There's I don't know if you guys are aware, there's 63 communities up north that are Cree, Dene, Ojibwe, and Inuit. And a lot of them were evacuated here into Winnipeg, over 17,000. And it's been trying for the community here, but a lot of will, a lot of perseverance, a lot of giving, and a lot of kindness that you see out there for the evacuees. And it's just so inspiring and empowering to see how the communities came together to take care of the evacuees. But not only the local volunteers, our leadership. Is my water? Our leadership, yesterday, one of the chiefs in Cross Lake, the chief of Cross Lake, David Munoz, after taking care of everybody where they were going, where they were going to be evacuated to, he finally came out of the community. And he facilitated that. And last night they honored him. They honored his presence, when he traveled from Cross Lake into Thompson. And that's his leadership really stood out, in taking care. He was the last man, standing, on his reserve. So he wanted to ensure the safety of his people. So I want each one of you to think about that, because a lot of the evacuees are away from their homelands. They've away from their homes. Some of them lost their homes. Some of them have no home to go back to. They're going to have so many stories to share after this. And I just wanted to acknowledge them and just let you know what's transpiring here in Manitoba, but also in Saskatchewan as well. The provinces, the premiers are stepping forward and helping the evacuees. So with that, I want to acknowledge stories, and I want to come from a great-grandmother's perspective, because sometimes that's not shared, or even a grandmother's perspective, or even our stories. So I do have role models, my Indigenous role models. And one of them that really stood out for me was Justice Murray Sinclair. And how he inspired me was, he went to 7 major cities and he listened to all the survivors' stories. He took their statements, their public statements, and he listened to them. And then how that could be for an individual to carry all those stories and then come out of it with a voice. And he did have a voice. And so I got to present to him in Vancouver in 2013. I did my public statement, and it was, and I only had 20 minutes, as I do today. So, but I had to share my residential school experience for that 20 minutes. And he sat there, him and Marie Wilson, they sat there and they listened to my story. But in my story, I asked for forgiveness. I asked for forgiveness from my grandchildren, first my children, and then my grandchildren, and then my extended family. And the reason why I asked for their forgiveness was because they got to see that part of me of what I learned in residential school. And what I learned in residential school was I learned to hate, I learned to hit, I learned to be a terrible person. I learned to be verbally abusive, all those, and I thought it was normal. It's not normal, hey? And so I spoke there and I apologized to them. And I told them that Mom, Gramma had to unlearn those behaviors, hey? I had to unlearn. And in my unlearning, I had to find out my true identity of who I was, hey? As an Indigenous woman, as Indigenous mother, as Indigenous grandmother. And in my learning, I met people. They came across my path and they showed me ways. I went to ceremonies. Our ceremonies are very strong in the summer. So I went to ceremony after ceremony after ceremony. And I let it out. I let all that out, what I carried. Because I couldn't walk around angry. I couldn't walk around, hating on people, all that. It was so, it was such a healing journey. And I met so many beautiful elders. So many beautiful elders. They're no longer here right now. But like I said, Justice Murray Sinclair was one of them. And the words that he said were, I see you, I hear you, and I believe you. And there in Vancouver, 2013. And when he said that, it validated, my experience, what happened in residential school. So in June of 2015, the Truth Reconciliation Commission came to a closure. And it was a big event because he had volumes and volumes of stories and and then all the recommendations, the 93 calls to action, and it was just it was something to celebrate. Because it was being out there. It was no longer me, Gramma, carrying it. I never told my family. I never told the community. I didn't know others went to residential school. We're sharing stories. So it was a time for me to, when I seen him up there sharing that report, what I did was I need to do something. And this vision came to me that I had to go out there and share my story. And that's what I did. That's what Gramma did. I went to schools. I went to kindergarten. I went to junior high. I went to high schools. And then I went to universities. And then I even went to Stockholm, Sweden, because they started their TRC too, but they call it Truth Commission. They took the reconciliation out. And they're going to be done this year, 2025. So I even went and shared my story there. But when I was asked to go present to a daycare, and the little ones, I was thinking, oh my, how am I going to tell them? How am I going to tell them about my experience? They were like a little 3-4-year-old. So what I did was, and it just came naturally, I went in there and they gave me a rocking chair. I sat in that rocking chair just like their grandma, and I told them my story. And they just, they were listening, they were so intrigued, and they just absorbed, that my story. And I didn't go into the details either, because we got to take care of the little ones, we can't traumatize them. But with the high school students, that was different. I was able to share what actually happened. And the only one that I ever really shared in detail with was in Stockholm, Sweden, with the Canadian Embassy staff. And Justin Torrey told me, Gramma, just share it all. He said, don't hold it in, share it all. So I shared it all that day. I never talked about my sexual abuse. And that day I did, and it was so finally a load. It was a healing too for me as well. But that truth needs to be told. And that's what Justice Murray Sinclair did, was he needed the Canadian society to know our truth. Because they have truth and reconciliation. So you can't have reconciliation unless you hear that truth. So that's what he taught me, and he inspired me, and I've been doing that since. And since his passing, I still continue to do it because people still need to be aware. A lot of people don't know about the residential school experience, okay? So when I speak about identity, I come to know that I am a strong, beautiful Anishinaabe Kwe, and where before I used to think that I was a poor, ugly, squaw, dirty woman. Like, those were the messages that were given to me in residential school. So I carried that. But today, I'm a proud Indigenous woman. So it's our responsibility, each one of you, to find your true identity. And watching your video this morning, I seen that. You took it back. You took it back, you brought it to Canada. Like, goodbye. So, like, I see that you guys are unified. I see that solidarity, and it's strong, and continue to grow. Nurture it, take care of it, and make it stronger. Bring in more people. You could do that. But I was talking about identity, like each one of you, you need to go to your own identity, who you are. Each one of you carried that rich culture, that rich traditions, your stories, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, they carried gifts. You are here because of your ancestors. And go back and find, their gifts, who they are. But you might find some truths there, but that's okay. You'll get past that, and you'll grow to become who you are, and you'll be proud to be who you are, like I am, like an Anishinaabe. Okay? So I just want to close with, in my stories, when I went the last 25 years sharing with the schools and the universities, I didn't go alone. I used to take my granddaughter. And I'd take my daughter and they'd listen to my stories, and then they'd say, Gramma, I learned something about you each time I go. I learn about your story, you share something different. And I speak about her because her name is Tiana Lee Shingoose. She is 26 years old, and she passed away this year, April 5th. Gramma had long hair for many years. The last time I had short hair was in residential school. And when somebody passes away, you cut your hair so you could give that hair to them so they could make that journey to the spirit world. My baby girl knew my story. She had her story. She was breaking, that intergenerational cycle. And she left two little ones behind, my Chapans, my Talon and my Torin, two babies. So I share that because in our stories as Indigenous people, when we lose someone, it's time to rest, eh? A time to grieve and, your loss. It's not a time to help people. It's not a time to go out and do what you have to do. And Gramma made that effort today to come. I had to, because Tiana would want that. She'd want me. She'd want me out there. So when the old people, they say, if you're a helper or a healer, give yourself that time to heal, a year. And then you could start over again and take care of the people. You could give that healing again. So I know it's early, and like I said, I know Tiana would want me here this morning to share the messages that I shared this morning with you. So with that, I just want to express my gratitude and honor, and I ask you guys to move forward, get unified, get stronger, and be one. Grab people from all over, all over Canada, Turtle Island, okay? So thank you for listening to Gramma. Ego se miigwech.